Szaladjunk tovább, két panel, illetve két keynote és egy panelbeszélgetést szeretnénk még nektek celebrálni így az ebéd előtti időszakra. Egy angol nyelvű előadással fogjuk folytatni Mart Laanpere úr prezentálásában, a University of Tallinn professzora jövő oktatásáról és minden olyan témáról fog nekünk egy átfogó kutatás szempontjából, vagy akadémiai háttér szempontjából is releváns, illetve kézzelfogható gyakorlatokat felvonultató előadást tartani. Úgyhogy fogadjátok sok szeretettel. Stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to lovely Budapest. My talk is about future of education again, like another Mart from Estonia did it a while ago. But I'm looking at it from academic side. So I'm a researcher and a professor in University of Tallinn. And I've been working for university now for 26 years. Before that, I was a school principal and math teacher in rural school. So I guess it's a familiar situation for you. If you sit at the sea or look at the fire and next to some other person, and two of you wondering completely opposite things. One looks at the sea and says that, oh, everything stays the same. I wondered that it was like 100, 1,000 years ago, or 10,000, a million years ago, the sea was always the same. And the other person looks at the same sea and says that, look at how it's changing. Every second, it's a new. So you could continuously watch it and be amazed at how many new things come up. And the same is about true about when you look at the human nature. The people say that humans have never changed since the Roman times or earlier, and the others are having completely opposite view on this. And the same about the schooling, because our generation and our parents' generation, our grandparents, they all actually went pretty similar schools as we do and as our kids do today. It's the same thing, that there is a teacher, 20 kids, 30 maximum, then there are desks and blackboard or whiteboard, doesn't matter. It could be interactive, but still it's in the front of the classroom. A teacher teaches a subject, there is a textbook, maybe a little bit newer, but it's still the same textbook basically. So you could say that what have changed. And I think it's sometimes very refreshing to look back in the history and see that how different actually it has been. And then it might fill you up with hope that it could be in the future even more different. 2,400 years ago, Socrates, he considered writing and written text as a death of knowledge. Imagine this claim today. The other thing he liked, he said that you should start, his main didactical principle, you should start lesson from something that everybody knows and end the lesson so that everybody admits that they know nothing. So then the learning outcome has reached. Imagine this explaining today to your school principal or Ministry of Education. So I wonder what state exams would be in this context. Yeah, the other thing that about learning environment, for Socrates, the ideal learning environment was beach. Yeah. He has his own pedagogical approach, which was called peripatetikos, which means teaching while walking. Okay, 800 years ago, apprenticeship learning was the main model. So it means that there was no teaching profession. Every blacksmith was also a teacher. Every blacksmith's forge was also a learning environment. No classrooms needed. 260 years ago, famous book about education, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Émile, he studied at home. Yeah, he was lucky one, not all kids could afford it at that time, but this was the best education environment at home. And the one who was teaching Émile was not probably a professional teacher, but just educated person. And I guess his expected learning outcomes were also different. 160 years ago, I don't know about your country, but in Estonia, it was a really big change. It was a decade when we had a village school in every village. It was actually started and funded by local peasants. So they collected money, they bought one house that was empty, the farmhouse, and usually it was a two-room house, only 2 rooms. In one of them lived the school principal with his family, and in other one was pedagogical activities with kids with the age difference up to 6 years, all studying in the same room. So it's kind of already classroom model, but not really. So try to be a teacher in this classroom, teaching many subjects to many different classes simultaneously. Actually, my grandfather was a school principal when he started his school principal career in 1920s. For the first 5 years, his school was like this. So he had 5 kids at that time, and they were living in half of the schoolhouse, and the other half was used for teaching. Okay, so 100 years ago, what happened in education globally, it was an industrialization of schooling that Mart already mentioned in his presentation, because the new type of workforce was needed. And 25 years ago, there was another interesting revolution when e-learning arrived to schools and virtual learning environments started to appear. But they were like something a little bit extra, not replacing the normal schools. Only during COVID time we know that it happened, but we all know that it will be past very soon and we will go back to normal. So it was only temporary. But one of my main fields of research has been the online learning environments, and I'm really curious about the first online learning environments in mid-1990s, which were copies of traditional classroom. It's like 3D room with rows of benches. Blackboard is in the front, and teacher is a virtual figure in front of the classroom, and students enter this virtual classroom just to sit to the bench and listen to the lecture. Come on, guys. Why did you go online for this? So something similar happened to me. Just a story I want to share with you is when the school where I used to be a principal, and then was a chairman of the school board, celebrated this 150th anniversary. And parents wanted to make a great gift to school, an outdoor learning classroom, because outdoor learning started to become popular in Estonia. So their idea was that they already made the designs and came to the school board with this, that, okay, you see that we put benches here and we put blackboard between these 2 pine trees. I said, come on, guys, you can do anything, and you do this, like copy of the classroom that you had, just like the 3D guys. And when we made brainstorm, we came up with completely different solutions. We had 6 different classrooms. You see that one is especially for group work. So I forgot to say that the school is in the middle of the forest, 1 kilometer away from any habitation. So then we have a fire classroom where you can burn things. You can't do it inside of the school. The only classroom you can burn things, this is where we do chemistry and physics experiments. You have a singing class there with the seats like a choir, you know. And you have a physical education classroom. But actually you don't need classroom. It's just, most cases what you need is just a couple of stones, a little bit of rope and some tools, and you already have classroom anywhere when you need it. Okay. But yeah, we are now kind of settling down to this era of online learning with, which has been organized through platforms like Moodle. So now, especially after this COVID period, if you think about online learning platform, it's either something like Teams, Notes, and stuff, or Moodle, which is like more systematic, where you have courses, learning resources, tests, and everything. But this era is coming to an end. So, we are moving to new paradigms. So in new paradigm, we're trying to build different kind of platforms which are not monolithic anymore and single systems, one one Moodle per one school or university. We are moving towards evolving, dynamically evolving ecosystem of many interoperable digital services. It's not centralized, it's distributed systems. It's not stable and static because it's continuously develops, it's dynamic and not version by version, but it could be different today than from yesterday. It's adaptive, it adapts itself to learners' needs, teachers' needs, and so on. It doesn't necessarily have institutional control, so learners and teachers are going to have more and more autonomy in choosing some attached services or tools that you just link to this ecosystem, and you prefer to use it, let's say, Skype instead of Teams video conference. And you have the right to this if you guarantee that you can log in with the same account and so on. Instead of boring usage statistics, you have rich, semantic, meaningful learning analytics that actually helps you to make decisions based on the data about your pedagogical or learning strategies. It's not closed, or at least not completely closed. It's closed only when in the parts where you need to protect learners' the privacy and personal data. And it doesn't support this linear top-down pedagogy like for which the Moodle kind of systems are built for. Actually, I am a pedagogical researcher, and for me it was really terrible to see that how Moodle kind of learning platforms pedagogically kicked us back 30, 40 years to the very old style pedagogy that we thought that we already have left past and behind. But the new kind, this ecosystem kind of learning environments, they are built with completely different pedagogical ideas behind supporting facilitative pedagogy that supports creative, collaborative, self-directed, flexible learning by solving ill-structured problems taken from real life. So this is what we call digital learning ecosystem. So my group in Tallinn University does research on this kind of systems, and we also develop this kind of systems together with our industry. So, of course, it comes as a metaphor from biological ecosystems or ecology. So in biology, ecosystem means the community of living organisms together with their abiotic, non-living counterparts who interact together as a system. They influence each other and they form niches, and in every niche there is some local cycle of nutrition, cycle of energy, and very complex semiotics going on there, some science systems and signaling about dangers and so on. And we believe that actually this is not just a metaphor for building next generation online learning systems, but we can take a lot of proven evidence-based mechanisms from biological ecosystems and transfer them to digital ecosystems. So we define digital learning ecosystem as an adaptive socio-technical system, socio-technical. It has both components, it's not just technical. If you only have Microsoft Teams, it's not ecosystem. But if you have users with their ideas, their needs, and there are some other tools they are using, their content they are using and creating, the communication and interaction they are engaged in. So then it becomes socio-technical system or digital learning ecosystem. So, and the most tricky, I'm sorry I'm getting academic, but this is where I come from, even more complex term, but very important term to understand the digital learning ecosystem is affordances. So this is something that affords to do something in the system. It originally comes from ecological psychology, animal psychology, by the way. And the famous psychologist Gibson has defined affordance originally as an ecological niche of an animal that involves direct perception without cognitive modeling, which is like, I think most of the psychologists wouldn't sign under it that it is even possible. They always think that if you think something, there should be some cognitive schema and something that you learned before. But actually, with the animals, we can maybe accept that sometimes they act without kind of engaging the cognitive structures. It means directly perceive danger or a way to escape, and they go for it. So it's like a chance. They see their chances. They perceive directly their chances without kind of making sense of it. And we are using this the same concept also in the context of digital learning ecosystems. So where we define affordance as an activity space, or you can also say ecological niche, or chance niche for teachers and learners, defining their perceived potential of learning activities. So mostly it is cultural phenomenon, habitual phenomenon, not technological. So affordance is not something which is built inside of the tool. You add some affordance to Microsoft Teams, let's say, to create the concept maps. So this is functionality, it's not affordance. It becomes affordance if teachers and learners see the chance of changing their practice with the help of this tool. So affordance sits between the users and the system. So, but yeah, you need first to build the functionality in the system, otherwise there will be no affordance. But sometimes it could be also that the users are going to misuse the tool to fill in their affordance. So it means that they are using the tool not with the original purpose built in by the designers. So for instance, if Microsoft Teams has this OneNote feature, I think. I'm not the user of this ecosystem, but originally OneNote was meant for making notes, right? But now the clever teachers have been using it for doing some completely other different things. That they actually, because they have this affordance, and the system also supports this affordance because the functionality is there. Okay, but the nature of the affordance-driven user experience in digital learning ecosystems, it makes the life of designers of this digital ecosystem really hard. Yes, you have to communicate with the teachers, you have to interview them and ask for their needs. But the problem is that when the teacher starts to respond to you, they respond based on the cognitive schemas they have in the head. And this is not affordance. Affordance is like works on the kind of subconscious level. So it means that when you start to discuss it with them, they tell you what they expect you to hear or what they've been telling before or what they've been taught in training courses or in university or so on. And that's why all the startups that are creating new educational software, they usually are practicing very participatory design. They go to teachers and ask, okay, what do you need? And teachers say that, oh, I need more control over the students, that the students with their smartphones cannot go to Facebook because then they're lost. No, you don't need more control. So this is what you think you need, but you actually need something else. So it's like with every innovation. You remember the famous quote from Henry Ford, that if I would have listened my users and that what do you need for improving the logistics in this early 20th century, then I would probably end up with breeding faster horses, not designing a car, because the user wouldn't say that I need a car to get from A to B. No, he says I need a faster horse. So, but you still need to go to users and you still need to discuss with them and understand what they think they want and what they actually need. And then it's iterative design, prototyping. You go back to them and see, look now, I have now another angle. Could we do it this way? And then you at some point you might click and come up with a solution that actually creates completely new affordances, and it starts to grow, it starts to be infectious. But this is the way we try to do our research and the digital learning ecosystems. But this research would not be possible without funding and political support from governmental level. So that's why I was really happy to be involved in developing lifelong learning strategy in Estonia from 2014-2020, where we had this very ambitious digital turn program, where we try to make a shift in pedagogical paradigm first towards facilitating more creative, collaborative, self-regulated and entrepreneurial learning. So this was our main goal, and it still is. So, and the next big goal was that to make digital turn in schools happen, to mainstream the digital culture, build a digital ecosystem of smart learning services, digital content, digital competence development, measuring and improving schools' digital maturity. So we managed to do it all before COVID hit us. And I think before that, Estonian schools were relatively well prepared for COVID. But when the COVID period ended, just like any other country, Estonian teachers were so fed up of Teams and Zoom and all that, so everybody wanted to go back to normal. But now they are starting to combine some elements from what was learned and practiced in the affordances from COVID time. They slightly integrate it into their normal practices. We have schools which have shortened their school week to 4 days or 3 days. So the rest is used for online learning. Estonian schools are autonomous. They can make this decision. Nobody cannot tell them that you can't do it. No. So Estonian school principal is like a captain on the ship. So no bosses above. So ministry has nothing to do. Ministry only gives money and writes some recommendations. And no school inspections in Estonia. Okay, so the new education strategy is even more interesting. So we build on the previous one, and we focus even more on student-centered learning and flexible learning paths supported by intelligent ecosystem of interoperable learning services. And it sounds like a little bit crazy, but oh no, this becomes not disturbing. Okay, but what it means is that we cannot leave all the innovation to startups and edtechs. So it means the state needs to create some core services of this ecosystem that these startups can link to with their services. Like curriculum, digitized curriculum service. All the learning outcomes are in machine-readable way there. So the learning resource service, mapping to curriculum topics, online exam service. So you cannot give it to companies. In America they do, but yeah, it doesn't work in Estonia. But what is also important that we try with this new strategy to dissolve the boundaries between the roles of the teacher and the learner, between formal and non-formal education. It means accepting as a part of formal education, part of what you learned informally or non-formally in the extracurricular activities. Between school and life, they're opening school to local community, between classroom and external learning spaces, including virtual learning spaces. And this has been defined as a national goal. The fantastic opportunity to actually make a wide-scale innovation happening in Estonia until 2035. Yeah, and the core thing there is flexible learning paths. And we distribute into 2 different forms. One is which is ahead of me. The path which is ahead of me, I call learning trajectory. And at any point of time, I have several trajectories in front of me. And what we would hate to do is to leave to artificial intelligence to tell that this is your path, the trajectory, and you should go there. No, it should be always human decision. Yes, data-informed human decision, but still human decision. So, and then when you already have proceeded through learning process, you leave behind a learning path, the digital footprints that we can collect using these national services, following all the privacy and laws and data protection, and then aggregate and model it and visualize it as a learning path, which can be reused for predictions and recommendations. So lots of opportunities for new startups to come up with this kind of services, and also other services that are using this recommendation data. As I said, the utmost important is that the learner controls her learning trajectory. And just one example, what we have done is that we've built a concept of next generation online learning platform called Schoolabi. This is a very thin learning management system because most of the functionalities are residing outside of the system. We are just using, we don't think that we can do better Kahoot than Kahoot, so we just connect Kahoot. We cannot make better Prezi than Prezi, so we just connect it. And you can give any task from inside of this tool, and the results come back to this platform and can be used for learning analytics. Every task, activity, and resource is linked to National Open Educational Resource Repository for recommending additional free resources, and also curriculum taxonomy service and learning analytics service. So we don't build it into the system. We just use it as an external service. We built it, the initial concept in Tallinn University, then we teamed up with a company who actually built it using metaphor-driven design. So instead of courses, we have journeys. Instead of syllabus, we have itinerary. Instead of study group, we have a team. Teacher is a guide, and the learning goals are destinations, and so on. And it looks like this. So this is the joint path of learning paths, and under every step here you have some activities connected to the resources, learning outcomes that you have to proceed. The green ones are completed already. If everything is green, you can move forward. So yeah, and this also, the last thing, it cannot, all this innovation cannot leave aside also physical spaces for learning. And now we're back in my grandfather's room, the school room where everybody was in the same room. So this is a prototypical future classroom in Helsinki. There are smaller rooms where you can just, with the remote control, remove walls, make it in one big room, and or split it into 6 smaller rooms. Every room has a different setup, different furniture, always flexible, but specifically supporting some affordances that user expects from this kind of room. And here is the whole plan. You see that there are 6 rooms actually with very different configurations, very different technologies, but all flexible. So as a conclusion, many aspects of schooling remain still very constant, and we still are using the Socrates style, Socratic dialogue in education. We still use apprenticeship learning, but many things have been changing significantly and will even in a faster pace. So the changes in goals and methods of education follow innovation in society at large. It's very clear. So if society moves towards industrialization, school becomes industrial facility. If society moves towards more creative, collaborative ecosystem, the school has to turn also this. But the changes in learning tools and spaces, this is very important. The designers of these tools, they have to follow the new pedagogy and the goals and methods of education. Otherwise, their new tools become a blocker of education or bring us back for 30 years like Moodle did. So looking back and making sense of history sometimes is useful because it helps us maybe to define more meaningful future. So thank you.